You are going to die. Not now, probably, but eventually. And while that sentence may not have improved your afternoon, it may already have changed what your brain does next. You might feel uncomfortable, check your phone, or suddenly remember an urgent email. Apparently, inbox zero is easier to face than mortality. But the interesting part is not simply that death is frightening. The interesting part is what happens after the frightening thought leaves the room. Some psychologists argue that reminders of death can influence how strongly we defend our beliefs, how we judge other people, what we buy, who we trust, and what we consider meaningful. Not because we are constantly screaming internally. Most of us would notice that. Instead, the idea may continue working quietly in the background, like an unpaid intern with access to the control panel. This is the central idea behind terror management theory. The theory begins with an awkward combination. Humans are animals with a powerful instinct to stay alive, but we're also intelligent enough to understand time, imagine the future, and realize that the future eventually continues without us. A squirrel can fear a car. A human can fear it, imagine the funeral, worry about being forgotten, and then buy a sports car. Self-awareness immediately discovered the terms and conditions. The cultural anthropologist Ernest Becker argued that much of human civilization can be understood as an attempt to deal with this problem. His book, The Denial of Death, inspired psychologists Jeff Greenberg, Sheldon Solomon, and Tom Tyszczynski to develop terror management theory in the 1980s. Their basic proposal was not that everyone consciously fears death every minute. It was that the knowledge of death creates a potential for anxiety, and that humans build psychological systems to keep that anxiety manageable. The first system is a cultural worldview. A worldview tells you what reality means, what counts as good or bad, how a valuable person should behave, and how your life fits into a story larger than your own biological expiration date. Religion can offer literal immortality. Families, nations, science, art, and traditions can offer symbolic immortality. Your body disappears, but your work, community, or extremely detailed online argument might continue. The second system is self-esteem. Here, self-esteem means feeling that you meet the standards of your worldview. If it values courage, you want to be courageous. If it values wealth, you want a suspiciously large watch. If it values knowledge, you buy books faster than you read them. The third possible shield is close relationships. Other people make us feel secure, confirm that our lives matter, and connect us to something that existed before us and may continue after us. Love is many things. According to this research, it may also be psychological antivirus software. So how do researchers test an idea this large? One common method is called a mortality-salience experiment. Participants might be asked to write briefly about their own death, including the emotions it creates and what they think will happen physically. A control group writes about something unpleasant but less existential, often dental pain. This means that somewhere in a psychology department, a researcher had to decide that the scientific opposite of death was a bad dentist appointment. After a short distraction, participants complete an apparently unrelated task. They might judge someone who praised or criticized their country. They might recommend a punishment, choose between products, donate money, or express support for a social cause. In classic studies, people reminded of death often reacted more positively to supporters of their values and more negatively to critics. Participants did not establish a new religion in the parking lot. The changes appeared in judgments, preferences, and decisions. Terror management theory separates the response into two broad stages. When death is consciously in mind, people may use direct or proximal defenses. They suppress the thought, deny their vulnerability, promise to exercise, or tell themselves that death is a problem for people who do not eat blueberries.
But after the conscious thought fades away, distal defenses may take over. These don't solve death, they strengthen the systems that make life feel meaningful. People may defend their identity, seek self-esteem, move closer to their group, or reject people who threaten their worldview. This distinction produces a strange possibility. A reminder of death may influence you most clearly after you believe you have stopped thinking about it. That doesn't mean death reminders always make people hostile, nationalistic, religious, or politically conservative. That version is too simple. The theory predicts that people defend whatever values are available and important to them. If a culture emphasizes generosity, mortality reminders may increase generosity. Some studies found increased charitable intentions or helpful behavior. Researchers nicknamed one version the Scrooge effect because being confronted with mortality made some participants more giving rather than less. If tolerance is presented as an important cultural value, people may become more tolerant. If environmental responsibility is central to someone's identity, a mortality reminder may strengthen that commitment. Death doesn't necessarily press an aggression button. It may press the volume button on meaning. Unfortunately, the same mechanism could also intensify exclusion. If a worldview depends on a superior in-group, then outsiders, critics, and unfamiliar ideas can feel like more than ordinary disagreements. They can feel like attacks on the structure keeping chaos outside the building. This may help explain why arguments about flags, traditions, religion, and identity become so emotionally expensive. People are rarely debating only the object in front of them. They may be defending the invisible story that tells them who they are. Then there's shopping. Consumer researchers have examined luxury products, familiar brands, status symbols, and nostalgic items. Some studies suggest mortality reminders can alter these preferences, depending on what a product represents. The important part is not that everyone sees a cemetery and immediately orders a sports car. It's that products can carry psychological meaning. A luxury item may signal success. A familiar brand may offer stability. An environmentally friendly product may confirm moral identity. A family recipe book may connect someone to previous generations. The object is physical. The reason for wanting it may be trying to outlive physics. Death awareness can also pull people toward relationships. Research reviews suggest close relationships sometimes buffer mortality concerns, but attachment and personal circumstances matter. One person may seek closeness, another may become defensive. Human beings remain annoyingly difficult to summarize. And that brings us to the most important warning label. Terror management theory is influential, but it is not a proven master key for human behavior. An earlier meta-analysis covering decades of research reported a meaningful overall mortality-salience effect, but later large and pre-registered replication attempts failed to reproduce some famous findings. A 2023 paper reported several unsuccessful replications, including the classic effect involving reactions to criticism of one's nation. Other analyses have raised questions about publication bias, study design, cultural differences, and the role of social norms. That doesn't automatically make the entire theory false. Terror management theory includes several claims, and hundreds of studies use different methods, populations, and outcomes. But it does mean we should not take one laboratory result and use it to explain every war, election, shopping trip, family argument, and man who buys a motorcycle at 52. Psychology becomes less exciting when every sentence includes "it depends." Unfortunately, psychology also becomes more accurate. The safest conclusion is that death awareness can affect people, but the direction and size of that effect depend on context, values, relationships, measurement, and what happens between the reminder and the decision. It's also worth separating fear of death from reflection on death. A sudden threat can produce panic or avoidance. A quiet awareness that life is limited can produce something very different: priorities. People write wills, repair relationships, create art, protect traditions, raise children, teach students, build institutions, and leave messages for people they will never meet. These actions do not defeat death biologically. They create continuity socially. In that sense, civilization may be partly built from millions of personal answers to the same impossible question: what can continue when I cannot? Some answers are destructive. We can cling to groups, punish outsiders, and confuse disagreement with danger. Other answers are generous. We can create, care, teach, and contribute to a future we know we will not personally see. The thought of death is not a moral instruction. It's an amplifier. What it amplifies may depend on what we already believe makes life valuable. So thinking about